Welcome to the Full Tracy Money Audio Commentary. This is Owen Tracy recording. It's 5:13 p.m. That is Central Time. Today is November 3rd, and today being Friday, it's the big picture long-term audio and video for the various different asset classes. So certainly a lot going on this week, and I think the primary concern of the vast majority of investors is going to be the perception that the Federal Reserve is at the peak of the interest rate hiking cycle. And there's, I think, some good reason to expect that they're going to at least be a little bit cautious about continuing to raise rates. So now the really fine finessing is going to come into play, because when you have slowing economic data and you've been raising rates for a year and 10 months, well then the obvious question is you have a long and variable lag. So when they're talking about trying to achieve a soft landing, which would be that economic growth moderates but doesn't contract, inflation comes back down to trend, and corporate profits are completely unaffected by that process. Well, the only possible way to achieve that is to accurately predict what the long and variable lag of interest rate policy is, and then to start easing that policy in advance of economic activity turning lower, so that you get exactly the right amount of support. And that is just not how central banks work. When we go back and think about why did they start raising rates in the first place, well, you had the Federal Reserve basically saying that they didn't think inflation was going to be a problem. Then, of course, inflation became a problem, and they had to not just raise rates, but aggressively raise rates and engage in the fastest pace of interest rate hikes in decades, and perhaps ever. Then what we're at now is a situation where economic activity is beginning to moderate, and they are waiting for a signal to tell them that the economy is turning lower before they start to cut rates. But then, of course, they also have this big question around inflation, and are inflationary pressures going to come down to trend before the economy starts to contract? And how much weight are they going to put on those two different priorities? So obviously, the concern here is what's next. Then, of course, you have the next big question. When they do start to cut rates, how much are they going to cut rates by? How long are those rates going to stay down for? And then the answer to that question will inform the opinion about whether we are now at the end of the secular bull market in treasuries, or are we back in the status quo that has prevailed for most of the last 40 years? So I don't pretend to have all the answers, but I think it is certainly worth the time to work through some of these questions over the course of this broadcast.